Thank you so much for joining us. We will start with Stephen Meads from Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Coach. Now that you've had a few games under your belt, first of all, the decision to move Baron Browning from Will linebacker from inside the box to outside the box, I guess, what did you see in him that made you feel comfortable in moving him to that position? And then also, how do you think he's performed in that role so far?
Well, I think he's done a very good job so far. And the good thing with the way we move our linebackers around, it really helps us to have a young man that has played inside, just like Pete did. I mean, Pete was outside. So, we look at the three linebacker position as all being one, and our guys can play all three positions. Justin Hilliard's been another guy that has done a really, really good job in there, along with Tuff and Pete and those guys. So we've been very, very pleased with our linebacker position.
All right, we'll go next to Tim May from Leonard Monroe. Tim?
Excuse me?
It's Tim May. Sorry, Coach.
Okay.
This is Tim May. Hey, you're a veteran coach. What goes into the idea of blitzing? I want to kind of pick your brain on what the young guy at Indiana is doing from a defensive coordinator side. I know you don't study them, but what just goes into the idea of blitzing, frequency of blitz, and usually when you're blitzing a lot, does it mean you're covering up for maybe some other disadvantage elsewhere?
No, the philosophy that everybody's had in the defensive part of it is you don't want the offense to feel comfortable. And, when you say the word blitz, old days blitz used to be bringing 6 and 7 people. That's not the case anymore. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the offensive line isn't sure where and who they're supposed to block. So it may be bringing somebody, but it's still the same amount of people that are coming after the quarterback. And they've done a really good job of it. And that's always been a case where you want to make sure that the people you're playing against don't feel comfortable.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
All righty, we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Greg, regarding Josh Proctor, what about him allows you to play him in so many different positions, and what are you guys getting out of him right now?
What allows us to do that is you're dealing with a tremendous athlete. I mean, this guy can run, can hit, and a great young man, just like our whole group is. But the thing that Proctor brings to the table is this guy can really, really run. He's played a lot of football, and he's physical, and that allows you to play him at a lot of different places.
Thank you.
All right, next up we'll go to Steve Hellwagon, 247. Steve.
Hey, Coach, how are you doing? Just wanted to ask you, looking at the champions list from the Rutgers game, I don't know, just how difficult is it for a defense to play its best football when some of the key veterans, guys like Browning, Werner, Garrett, Zach Harrison, didn't grade out as champions? And just what have the conversations been like the last 2 weeks to kind of get those guys' level of play back up where it needs to be, I guess? And not to pick on them, just in general.
Stephen, you're right. And the thing that makes the Silver Bullets something special is that there's a bar, there's a level that you have to play at. And it doesn't matter who you're playing at, what you're doing. And they know it. The backers know. It's not, how many tackles did you make, how many this, how many that. It's did you play up to the level that is expected of you in that position. They happen to be very, very talented young men. And so the bar for them is a lot higher than a lot of other people. And the one thing I'm really proud of our staff for is we're very honest with our players, and our players appreciate that, and they understand that. And so, if you didn't make champion, then there's a reason why. Let's get that corrected, and then let's move on to the next week. And that's what we've done with our players.
Yeah, and just looking at the second half, the last 2 weeks, Penn State and Rutgers both were able to accomplish quite a few things. In your mind, I know looking at the box score, you were playing backup players from the first series against Rutgers in the second half, and not to scapegoat it as that, but just in your mind, what was maybe a difference in the second half performance, both those games?
Tackling. Tackling was everything. And, and Stephen, you bring up a great point. And we have always on our goal board, don't allow the team to score in the fourth quarter. And if you do that, you're usually going to win every game. But more importantly, what it does is it sets the bar for the younger players that go in. That when you're a younger player going in a game as a mop-up role, you've got to play at a level that is higher than you've played at, just to be able to be a Buckeye and to be in this defense. And we've got to get better at that. That's something we've talked about and we've worked on hard.
Thanks.
All righty, next up, we'll go to Austin Ward, Letterman Row. Austin.
Greg, you've been around a lot of great pass rushers in your career. We've been sort of thinking that would come for Zach Harrison. He's got all those tools. What'll be the next step for him, as he breaks into that lineup more for you guys?
Well, I think just keep doing what he's doing. I mean, when you play for Coach Johnson, the one thing you're going to do is you're going to work as hard or harder than anybody that plays the game at that position. And you're going to be getting taught the technique better than anywhere else. So all he has to do is keep doing what he's doing. And that's the way it is with all young players on this program. But keep doing what they're doing and listen to the coaches, and you're going to end up being where you have to be. Zach's special. Zach's a special young man. He's so talented, and he comes to work every day, just like all the other guys do. I mean, I'm so proud of this group. You guys don't understand, but I mean, what they're going through, what they go through with this COVID, and what they've gone through with possibly not playing a season for a while there, and for them to take care of themselves physically and do the things they've done and to work the way they've done, I don't know if I'll ever be around a group like this. I'm so proud of them.
Thanks, Greg.
All righty, we'll go next to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan?
Hey, Greg. Similarly, Tuff Borland, I know he's someone that you guys have put a lot of trust in for a long time, but it seems like he's playing some of his best football this season. How would you sort of contrast how he's playing this year with what we saw from him last season?
I agree 100%. And I've said that to him a number of times. Tuff is definitely playing the best football he's ever played. The thing you got to remember about Tuff, it's been 2 years now, I think, since he had that Achilles. I mean, you look at the guys in the NFL and the players that have had Achilles, and it's the same thing with Justin Hilliard. I mean, for these two guys to be playing the type of football they're playing right now, that's amazing. And it's a real credit to our training staff, and it's a real credit to our strength staff to get them back. And you're never going to be as good as you're supposed to be right away. But Tuff's been a guy that's worked on everything, and now I think he's right at the top of his game, and will continue to be there throughout the season.
All right, we'll go next to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Hi, Greg. When you look at Indiana, what are the biggest challenges they present to you?
Well, I think Indiana is an outstanding team. It's the best team we've played so far. I really believe that, and I'm not saying it to talk. Trust me, you know me better than that. I don't do that. I watch them on film. This quarterback can put the ball where he wants to put it. They have very, very good wide receivers. I mean, they'll catch the football, and anytime you have a tight end like they have, that it goes right with their wide receivers. This is going to be a big challenge. This is an outstanding offensive football team, and it's one that we're looking forward to playing.
In terms of your secondary, that's still the biggest question on your defense, I would think. How ready do you think they are for this challenge?
Well, I think we'll find out in this game. And the thing that I've been proud of, we probably have had the best week and a half of practice with our secondary and with the other positions on the team. But with our secondary, you can really watch them in practice. They seem like they're really, really coming together and really starting to get it. And the thing that has to happen with secondary is you need a whole group of guys playing. You can't just be one guy out there. And that's what this group, I think, has done. They're really improving.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Yep.
All right, next we'll go to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Greg, you were asked before about some of the issues in the second half against Rutgers and, the backups for him there. How much concern do you have about the fact that because of his shorter season, there aren't as many opportunities to get those guys more playing experience?
Well, Dan, you're exactly right. And that's why we played them when we do. I mean, there's a lot of times, and that's a big question for a coach. You're sitting there and the game, the game is probably over, but you're not sure yet. But then at the same time, you need to get some of those younger guys some playing experience because you may need them next week. And there's no way to get better than to play in a game. So that's where you're at. You didn't have the 3 non-conference games that you usually have. So you have to find a way to get them experience, and you don't like really doing that under the lights. You'd rather do that in a game that really isn't as big, and that's what we're at.
Does that factor into your thinking going forward here of maybe you pull the trigger on putting those backups in a little bit sooner because the season is so short?
No, I don't think it's because the season is so short. It's because that it isn't going to change. Your depth's not going to change. So if you see that you need somebody to back up Pete Werner, in case something happens, well, we better get that guy ready. And in a game, if you have a lead and you look like you've got a good chance of winning this thing and doing what you want, then you got to get somebody in to get the experience. And that's what happens.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
All right, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy, 247. Patrick?
Greg, you mentioned the receivers for Indiana. There's been a lot talked about the quarterback, but what is it specifically that you see that they do well that has made his job easier?
I think the thing they do a really, really good job of is they get the ball out really quick. They catch the football, and their philosophy is they're going to spread the field, and they're going to see if they can't get it out quick before you get there, and then go from there. And the other thing you don't want to forget about this team is, and everybody always wants to, you talk about pass. They have the ability to run the football, and they've got a couple big running backs that can gain some yardage, and they got a couple pretty good tight ends that can block, and they've got an offensive line that can block. So they've got a good program right there, and so that's what really kind of gives them what they do.
You've obviously
we got time for just a couple more. We'll go first to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Greg, if this was a typical season, a top 10 matchup you'd have a crowd of 100,000 people, and there'd be a lot of buzz in the building and a lot of juice, obviously. Is it harder to win games at home? Is the home field advantage neutralized more? What have you kind of found?
No, it's not harder than it has been before because when you're going into the shoe, you better play like you're supposed to, and that's the bottom line. I mean, there's an unbelievable tradition, and that's what you do. And there's also a real comfort in that you're here in your city, and you're not on a plane, you're not on a long bus ride, and everything like that. So home games are still home games.
All righty, we've got time for 2 more. We'll go to Dave Biddle, 247. Dave.
Hey, Greg. I want to ask you about some of the young linebackers. Dallas Gant seems to be flashing. Kind of, what do you see his future being the rest of the season? Maybe some of the other guys like Craig Young, Taraja Mitchell, some of those guys, Pope. Kind of what do you foresee their roles being going forward?
Yeah, the guys you mentioned, you've got Cody Simon in that group. I mean, you got everybody you could mention right there. All of them show that they have the potential to be outstanding players, and just exactly what we talked about before, David. That's where you're at. You see them in practice. You see some of the good things they do in practice. Kay Pope and Craig Young and the whole group of them. Dallas, you mentioned Dallas and Taraja Mitchell. I mean, all of them. I could keep going, and they show signs, but until you see them in a game, you really don't know. And when you're playing against your offense in practice, you're not hitting, you're thudding and everything like that. So that's why you try to get them in those games to give them a chance to play.
Thank you.
And the last question from Coach, we'll go to Brendan Gulick from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
I'll tell you what, Mike, I'll let you have someone else have the last question because I was specifically going to ask about the backup linebackers, and Coach just addressed that. So I'll let someone else go.
All right, we'll go to Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row. Spencer.
Greg, everybody focuses a lot on the defensive ends, but the 2 defensive tackles that have really been playing well for you, what do you see from them? And have you been around a tandem of defensive tackles that have played as well as they are right now?
Well, I don't know if I'll measure that, but I am going to tell you they're playing really, really well. I mean, that group of Garrett and Togai and that whole group of guys that are out there, they just roll through playing as hard as they can. And again, that's what you do when you play defensive line here. And that's what you're expected to do. But the great thing, and again, Larry's done it again. I mean, you got a group of guys that are playing at a top level, and that's really important for us throughout the rest of the season.
Coach Mattison, thank you very much for your time today. Have a great day.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.